How's it going, everyone? It is May 1st, 2020. It's a Friday, and I just posted an episode not even a week ago, but due to current events, I feel I kind of want to speak on it a little sooner than I normally would. Um, yeah, so if you listened to my last couple episodes, I've kind of only really been talking about this whole coronavirus stuff, and today's no different. But yeah, this shit's starting to escalate and it's starting to affect me on a personal level. So, if you've heard my last couple episodes, I've been very vocal about how I feel about this whole shelter in place and all these lockdowns being enforced around the country. And I've already given my 2 cents on how I feel about that. So, I'm not going to reiterate too much of what I've already said, but in a nutshell, I feel the lockdowns are unnecessary and the actual danger from the coronavirus or COVID-19, whatever the fuck you want to call it, it is not to the degree of which these measures are being implemented. And what I mean by that is this virus is not as bad as they're making it seem, and that all of everybody being told to stay home is a total overreaction. In a nutshell, that's what I've been saying and how I feel. And I'm a pretty open guy. Like I try my best to not be closed-minded, and I try my best to sit and listen to other people's point of view. So when I'm not in this podcast telling you how I feel about things, I'm reading, I'm going on YouTube, I'm watching the news. I'm just kind of trying to get every perspective I can on this whole pandemic or whatever they want to call it. And, it'd be easy to feel like everybody's on the same page about it. It seems like the majority of the world, not just but the majority of the world, at least what we're being presented in the media, is that most of the world feels these lockdowns are justified. And I only go and say that even a lot of my own personal entourage, like family and friends that I'm close with and love and respect, also happen to be part of that group. And I've actually been getting a lot of arguments with family, friends, and I just got in an argument with my girlfriend over this. So it's kind of like, it's getting to the point where I'm feeling more and more loneliness, that less and less people, I mean, I didn't feel like anyone was really agreeing with me to begin with, but now it's like everyone is not even stopping to consider what I have to say anymore. So, it's any person I feel would definitely feel like, all right, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've been overreacting. Maybe I need to really think about what these people are saying. Maybe, there's some merit to their concerns. That maybe I'm being selfish and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, right? A lot of people would be like, that'd be the logical choice. Maybe you need to back off on all this anti-quarantine lockdown nonsense you've been speaking on. Maybe just shut your mouth and just let the world get on with itself and figure itself out, right? I mean, that's how I feel people want me to do. When I speak on this and I get the sense that people don't like what I have to say, I get the vibe. And I've actually had told people tell me already that I need to not speak on this, to not speak on it and not point out the things I've been trying to point out. And it's been really bugging me, and I knew there'd be resistance, but I didn't expect the people that told me this to react that way. I figured it'd be like anonymous strangers, people I don't know, people that freak out easy, people that it'd be obvious, yeah, you'd be one of those people that freak out when you hear this. But I'm having very logical people I respect, all right, tell me this. And it's getting to the point where it's like they're starting to make me feel like I'm crazy. you know? Like 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 I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, and there's enough evidence to suggest that these lockdown measures are totally justified. That's where I draw the line is, I'm sorry, I mean, even after listening to all the arguments for this COVID-19 lockdown, shelter in place, self-quarantine orders, I am still in the camp of saying it's total bullshit. I am still in that camp despite everything that everyone's been telling me that it's irresponsible to be going out. You're going to catch this killer contagious virus, that you're going to infect other people, and even like I said, that I'm a healthy young male, and that my risk of even if I were to catch it, my risk of actually dying or getting symptoms is low, that I'm being inconsiderate, and that when I go around high risk people, that I'm endangering them. All right. That's one of the main arguments I've been hearing, that going out in the public is a risk, and that stepping outside of your house is equivalent to saying fuck you to everybody else. That is the gist I am getting from the general public, from people I know personally, and people I love and respect. That's what they're telling me. But I would have to respectfully disagree and dig my feet in and really try to open people's eyes to this whole. I'm not just going to sit here and say all those people are wrong and they have no merit in what they say and yada yada, total bullshit. I want to get a haircut, you know, I'm going to try my best in this episode, come at this problem from the most logical point of view and perspective I can. And I might get a little emotional, might get a little heated, but the intention of this episode is to point out everything that I find is logically, or I'm sorry, everything that is illogical with all of these measures. All right. My big thing is, I'm not saying the coronavirus doesn't exist. All right. Like people, this whole coronavirus thing it's making people act like what they do when you talk about politics and religion, is that they hear that you have a disagreement with them, and before they stop and try to hear you out and get your point of view, they shut that door and they stop receiving anything you got to say, and they literally hold their breath until you stop talking so they can correct you. Oh no, you're dumb and you're wrong because of A, B, and C. And oh, you're wrong because you watched the wrong kind of news station. Oh, you're fucking wrong because I have a friend that's a doctor and they told me this. Okay, so I get that. I get it. All right. Everybody's got their own source of information. Everybody got their own opinion and everybody got their own perspective. All right. I've been trying my best to do a little bit more research to be a little bit more accurate with what I'm about to tell you. All right. And what it seems is throughout most of the country, the New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania area, the Northeast, that part of the country is being hit the hardest out of everywhere else. Even here in California, there's more cases in Pennsylvania than there is in California right now. And originally, California was one of the hot spots and still is considered one of the hot spots. So there are some protests happening all across the country. So I'm no longer the only person protesting this. I mean, I'm not going out in public with signs, but I'm doing my own form of protests by going on this podcast, speaking out what I feel is wrong. You don't have to agree with it, people. All right. But I would hope that at the very least, since like this kind of medium where it's not a two-way discussion, look, I came into this podcast with an open mind. I am here trying to give you another perspective. Okay. Listening to this podcast, don't think I want you to change your mind. What my intention is, I want you to consider everything before you make your decision. All right. Because I feel like everybody that is justifying this lockdown, and everybody that is saying stay home, and everybody that's shaking their fingers at people that are protesting, I don't feel like you have enough information to be feeling like that. I feel like if you had a better perspective on the entire picture, your opinion would change. And that's just me. I don't know if it would, but this is my attempt to see if that's true. All right. So I'm going to try to bring you as much info as I can in this episode to try to explain to you why I feel like this. All right. And maybe you might see why other people feel like it. And maybe your mind might change. And if it doesn't change, at the very least, you'll be able to sympathize with people that do feel like this. All right. Because I just want to state clearly right now that I understand why people are scared. Okay. I understand why people are wagging their fingers at other ones that are outside. Like everybody is scared because everybody is convinced that this virus is as bad as they say it is, and that they feel like they're doing their part and they feel like they're being good people by complying with the government stay-at-home orders. And they're being told and they're patting themselves on the back that, look, I'm doing my part, I'm staying in, I'm avoiding people, bam, I'm patriotic, right? Or that I care about people, so I'm just gonna not go around you at all right? Because I don't want to infect you, I don't want you infecting me, and I don't want to infect people. So I get it, all right? I totally understand that. That was why when all of this first happened, I was kind of a little bit more hush hush because I can see that perspective, right? It makes sense. It doesn't mean you know, like when I hear people say those things and voice those kind of opinions, you know, like I get it, all right? It's straightforward. You don't want to hurt anybody. Okay, that's fine. Now, the thing I feel like people are not pointing out and not really noticing what's going on is that no one is stopping to think like, all right, does everyone really need to stay in? Is that really something that is necessary? Okay. In the last episode, I pointed out the whole reason behind these stay at home orders was they feared CDC, which is the Center of Disease and Control. It's a federal agency for the government. It's their job to let us know when viruses and outbreaks and all that are occurring, and they're the official, the buck stops here opinion on what to do in these scenarios. That's the whole purpose of their existence, okay? So whatever the CDC says, people are going to listen because that's the whole reason they exist. They're supposed to be advising us on this, all right? So I get it. CDC is telling everybody to stay home. Um, who? The World Health Organization, which is not a federal, it's a what do you call it? It's a world organization. So it's not just America, it's the entire world. They label it as a pandemic, and they've been telling all these countries, or not telling them, encouraging them to implement these kind of measures. Now, most people hear, okay, you got the CDC telling us, to stay at home. You got the WHO organization also recommending similar precautions. All right, a logical person might say, all right, well, we have both of these big top dog agencies telling us to do this. Why wouldn't you? They know what they're talking about, right? They're the experts. They would know better than anyone, correct? That's the logical line of thought that everybody's going with, correct? Okay. Now, I feel like the only people that are disagreeing with this are the people, including myself, are the ones that don't take advice from organizations at face value. What I mean by that is you got to read between the lines, people. You got to stop and think about why they are saying this. It can come down to politics and come down to just preference, but at the end of the day, all those recommendations, they're not thought out. They're not fully vetted, thought out options for a real pandemic. What happened was this virus exists, all right? It started to get people sick in China, all right? China reacted the way it did because it's fucking China. They're communists. They can tell everybody to stay home. That's how their government functions, all right? And the majority of people in China are okay with it. I know in America, we kind of demonize China for being communist. But if you actually go to China and talk to these Chinese people, a lot of them are okay with the government being like that, okay? So if they're okay with it, then fuck it, let them. They choose to live in that country. A lot of them can leave if they want, but they choose to stay there because they're okay with that. All right, fair enough. But we live in America. Well, I mean, I live in America, and a lot of the people listening to this are probably from America. This is not a socialist country. At least we're told it's not. This is supposedly a democracy where we get to choose our own fate. This is supposedly a government that allows the people to be in charge. Now, the point I'm about to get to right now has to do with implications of what the shelter in place order is going to do. Not so much if the shelter in place order is effective at slowing the spread. Obviously, if everyone's staying home and no one's talking to each other and no one's interacting, then obviously the spread is going to slow down. All right. But these protests and all these people speaking up against the lockdown, including, celebrities and entrepreneurs like, someone like Elon Musk, someone that just recently, the other day, has some strongly worded, opinions on the subject, which I'll get to in a little bit. Um, everything these people are saying, when you actually stop, turn off your own emotion for a second, your own gut reaction to something that you don't agree with, and listen to what these people are saying, they are not telling people if you are sick or if you're afraid of being sick that you still have to go to work. They are not saying that. No one is fucking saying that. I've not heard a single person say that. Everybody that's protesting this is saying, hey, if you're sick, stay home. If you're afraid of being sick, stay home. If you take care of someone who's high risk, who might get sick, then you should be allowed to self-quarantine with them and take care of your family. All right. No one's arguing that. No one is arguing that. Please name someone that's arguing against that. You're not going to be able to, all right? Because no one is. Now, what people are protesting is the fact that this lockdown doesn't give you that choice. It's literally making the choice for you. The government, whether it be federal, state, doesn't matter. Whatever level of government, because I was arguing with people about this earlier, that they're like, oh, it's the states making these decisions. Doesn't fucking matter who's making it. It's not the people making it. It's the government making it for the people. And I say the government, but it's in my case, in my personal circumstances, it's the state of California making this decision for me. But look, if you're healthy and you got a job that, you need in order to survive, like you got to pay rent, you got other medical issues, like you got your own life, right? And this coronavirus doesn't affect you. Why should you be told to stay home? I keep hearing a lot of people saying, well, just because it doesn't affect you personally, if you're walking around and you catch it, you could give it to someone that is at high risk. But wait a minute. Like I just said, if you're high risk, or if you're around someone that's high risk a lot, like you live with like your in-laws, or you live with your grandparents or whatever, or you live with someone that has like multiple pre-existing conditions, you and your own, you should be given the right to stay home, all right? But everybody fucking else that is not in that category should not be forced to stay home. Why? Because you're literally taking away our choice, all right, of our own health. And they keep saying it's in the interest of public safety, but it's like, okay, interest of public safety. If everybody that's at risk and could be at risk is staying home, how are they going to get fucking sick? How are they going to get sick if they're self-quarantined? All right? And that's the fucking kicker. And that's the part that keeps pissing me off when I hear people try to reason away why people outside are a bunch of assholes and that everybody should be staying home. Hashtag stay home. Fucking, it's like, look, like, people. People. No one is telling you gotta leave your house. I know people that are so fucking scared of this virus. They are not even taking a step out their front fucking door. They're ordering a bunch of food. They're getting everything mail order. They're not even leaving their house. They're not visiting their families. They're not doing any of that because they are dead afraid of this virus. Fine, if you're afraid of it, if you're one of those people that just buy into this media bullshit, then fine, you should have the choice to stay home. But people like me, people that are not afraid of this virus, that don't come around high risk people a lot. I got family members that are high risk. I got a grandmother that's got several pre-existing conditions. I'm not going to visit her. I'm calling her. I'm checking up on her, making sure she's all right. But I am not going to go over to her house, all right? Because even though I want to go to work, and I want to like go back to my normal life, interact with people, I'm not going to put her at risk because I don't know how deadly this is. I'm of the camp that I feel like it's not that deadly, but hey, I could be wrong. Maybe it's one of those sleeper viruses that like gets really bad toward the end of the season before everybody's fucking dead, right? Or like it stays in your fucking system for 3 months before it kills you. Like all these fucking things in the news about how bad this virus could be. It there's not enough evidence to support it, but there's enough fear about it out there that people don't care. They don't care how deadly it could be. They know that it could be that deadly, so they don't want to take no risks. All right. Better better safe than sorry. I keep hearing that. Better safe than sorry. You know, everybody stay home regardless. Okay. So the whole better safe than sorry argument, it doesn't make any logical sense. Better safe than sorry in this instance makes no logical sense. You want to know why? Because if it made logical sense, like I'm trying to find the words without screaming, all right? Better safe than sorry is just saying the likelihood of you getting sick outweighs all of the risk and all of the bad things that the lockdown will cause. Now, when people say better safe than sorry, they're feeling like it's safer and it's more logical to stay home due to the fact that maybe there's a small chance they could get sick, maybe not, but they don't want to risk it. Okay. You have a higher percent chance of getting in a car accident, right? No, and I know people are trying to like disprove that and play with the numbers, but no, in reality, it is. All right. You have a certain percentage chance of getting in a car accident every time you enter the car. But if it's better safe than sorry, hey, why don't you just walk everywhere? Why don't you just fucking walk everywhere? Because yeah, there's a good chance you'll be okay in your car, but better safe than sorry, right? No one fucking does that. You want to know why? Because logically, they're like, there's always going to be a risk when you get in the car, but the risk is so small, it makes no point in ignoring it and avoiding cars your whole life. The risk is too small, all right? You could walk outside and a bolt of lightning will strike you. Well, I mean, you can't control when the lightning comes. Yeah, it's a very small percentage, but if you're that group of better safe than sorry, you better not leave your fucking house ever again. The very small off chance a fucking lightning bolt comes out of nowhere and strikes you dead. But everybody knows that is super unlikely, so they go out anyways. They go outside. It's like life is full of risk, all right? And the argument that I'm making and the argument a lot of people protesting are making is not that there isn't a risk. It's just the risk of this virus does not outweigh the freaking all the bad things this lockdown is causing. All right. And what do I mean by that? Like what bad things are coming from this lockdown? There's actually a lot of things, all right? And I don't even know where to begin, but let's just start with the obvious that there's 30 million people apply for unemployment in America? 30 million, that's 10% of the population. 10% we're halfway to the number of the Great Depression. During the Great Depression, it was 20%, and they only expected this number to go higher. And the longer they keep people out of work, the more people they're gonna apply for unemployment. That's not misinformation. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's fucking real. All right. You don't need the news to tell you that. The longer this thing goes on, the more people are going to be losing their jobs. That's common fucking sense. That's not something you need the news or the government to tell you. You can see it all around you. Shops are closing. You can't go out in public. You got to think about all the entrepreneurs other than just small business owners that are being affected. You got to think musicians, sporting events, comedians, everybody that their livelihood is tied to large gatherings. All of them are fucked. There's no way around it. All right. If you're like a rap artist or whatever, or a singer or whatever, and you make your money by holding concerts, guess what? You're not making any money right now because there can't be no concerts. If you're a comedian that goes to stand-up clubs and makes your money that way, guess what? You're not making any money either because all the clubs are closed. Hey, if you're a small business owner like a restaurant, which, hey, that's one of the biggest, most common small businesses in the country is freaking restaurants. No one's allowed in your restaurant. And unless you do takeout, you're fucked. Your income's gone. All right. What people are not stopping to consider is all the ramifications of just shutting down the economy. All right. People think, oh, the safety of our citizens outweighs any economic risk. Okay, I mean, on the surface, that sounds like a noble statement. And on the surface, that sounds like, hey, you're on moral high ground because you care more about lives than money. But let me just give you this perspective, all right? Why is making money a bad thing? You do realize that not everyone affected by this is a rich person, right? You do realize that a lot of the people making money weren't rich before this started. They were barely making ends meet. And they were making money in order to buy food. They were making money in order to pay rent. They were making money to just live in this fucking country where nothing comes for fucking free. Now, all those people are being told that they're not allowed to make money. They have to stay home. Even if they're fine, even if they don't believe none of this, they're being told that the decision is not yours. The decision is to the government, and you have to listen to what the government says because it's not your choice. All right. You're not allowed to make money in this country right now until we say so. But some people are like, oh, well, I mean, that's what the whole stimulus check stuff is for. I mean, the government's helping us out. Yeah, they're not just going to tell us to stay home and not give us money. Okay. And I already kind of spoke on this in my last episode, but government handout money is not the same as economy that's functioning. All right. You got to think, even with all the money that the government's handing out right now, that doesn't replace all the music that wasn't made. It doesn't replace all the movie tickets that weren't sold. It doesn't replace all the things that weren't made. Those things that, like, you got to think about it. Money is not just a dollar amount. Money represents time. How much time you spent on something, whether it's making a product or it's providing a service. All the barber shops in the world right now, like, all of them provide a service. All right. That money doesn't replace all the hairs that are not cut. That money that they're handing out does not replace all of the food that people would have been eating at a restaurant. Like, it doesn't replace that. It doesn't replace the time we lost. Okay. And even if the economy was turned back on right now and everybody went back to work, that time is already gone. You're not making it up. And all the time we'd spent making that back up, like, we lost that progress already, people. Like, the money isn't going to replace that. And another thing is, a lot of people are not even questioning where the fuck that money's coming from. You do realize we got like a $20 trillion deficit, right? People don't even care about that anymore. People don't give a fuck about what the deficit is in this country. People are just like, oh, well, I mean, we're still here. We're still getting paid. I'm still, you know, the news is still making it seem like everything's fine, blissfully ignorant of everything going on around them. You do realize that money's going to have to be paid back eventually. It's going to have to be paid back eventually. And all that money that you're not making from your own and all the money being given to you, where do you think that money's fucking coming from? It's not coming from some savings account that the government's been holding for like a situation like this. They're printing that fucking money. Maybe not literally printing it, but in essence, they're printing it. They're pulling this money out of thin air and handing it to you. And if you're a history buff and you ever stopped and look at whenever economies do something similar to this, it never ends well. All right? Never ends well. I'm going to give you a quick history lesson real quick because I feel like a lot of people just cannot comprehend the deep shit our freaking policymakers and governments in this country have put us in. All right, now I know a lot of people have like a lightweight history background when it comes to like wars. That's like the one subject in American history that like they always focus on. Like, so in World War One, Germany was on the losing side. All right, and whether fairly or unfairly, the Allies, England, France, America, all of them place the majority of the blame on Germany. So what they did was, not only did Germany lose a war on top of, losing all their people, they had to pay all those other countries reparations for that war. So not only did you lose the war, you got to pay all the winners all your shit. So what happened was Germany went into a very bad recession, a worse depression than even here in America we felt. You go into history books and look how bad it was in America. Yeah, it was bad, but it was worse in Germany. And it was worse in Germany because Germany was in a bad pickle. They're at a deficit. And they did what our government is doing right now. They started printing more money. In order to offset all the money they no longer have, all the gold they had to give to these other countries, in order to offset that, they started printing more money in order to make sure their economy didn't tank. And you know what happened? It tanked anyways. And it tanked a hell of a lot harder than it would have had they not done anything at all. There are pictures of little kids in these little ghetto ass German neighborhoods in between World War I and World War II, where inflation was so bad, they were having their version of the dollar, their marks, whatever you fuck you want to call them, worth millions of dollars that in their normal economy would have been able to buy you a portion of the country. It was worthless. Their government destroyed their own economy so thoroughly that their money that was used to be worth millions was worth less than toilet paper. People were wiping their ass with this, blowing their nose, using it to clean up messes. It was worthless. Now, people feel like, well, I mean, you can't blame them for trying to do something. It'd be worse not doing anything at all. Okay, maybe in that scenario, in their time, they can justify that. But we have the gift of hindsight. We have Americans today, or just people alive today, no matter what country you are, you have the gift of hindsight. You're able to look back in history to see when governments, countries, whatever, people, when they are in these situations, how do they handle it and did that work? They have the gift of being like, hey, you know what? Every time this has happened in a country and they tried inflating their way out of a problem, it backfired. We have that gift. And the thing that frustrates me and the thing that frustrates a lot of historians and people that are with deep knowledge in these subjects, they're seeing it happen all over again. Right now in America, way before this COVID-19 nonsense, the government's been inflating asset prices in order to offset our economy's, shortcomings. And I know this gets into the political arena because Trump's been touting that the economy's doing great. And people that voted for him are like, yeah, unemployment's at all-time lows and yada, yada. I'm not even going to get into that discussion, but what I will say is before Trump, before Obama, before Bush, our economy has been slowly and surely shifting away from an economy that produces goods in order to make money. Our economy has been based off financial tampering. All that stuff that happened in 2008 with the housing crisis and that last big recession we had, and we were having all those people saying all those people against Wall Street trying to hold them accountable for all the things they were doing. For all the people that weren't paying attention to what that was about, what those people were saying and what they were protesting against is that they were aware that Wall Street and all these financial institutions, the Federal Reserve, these banks, all these credit unions, all the people in charge of the money in the country are manipulating our currency in a way to where it looks like we're making money, but in reality, everybody, me, you, every citizen in this country is slightly poorer, while people that have financial assets, like people that own stock, people that, own property, people that own assets, those are the only people that are getting richer. And everybody else is getting slightly poorer. And it'd be kind of a hassle to pull all the numbers and get deeper into that. But in a nutshell, our economy was kind of fragile before all this. Now, when the shelter in place orders were first issued and they started saying, hey, you know what? It's okay. We're going to start issuing all of these stimulus checks. That's funny. You know what? Stimulus, whenever you hear that when it comes to the economy, that's always a fucking farce. All right. 2008, they handed out stimulus checks to these big corporations. They call them stimulus packages. And, the whole point was if you give these people money, technically in a loan, then they'll pay the money back once they're back on their feet. But the funny thing is that never happens. A lot of those companies are still paying off that loan. And this stimulus check that they're just handing out to people think that they're not going to have to pay it back right away. Yeah, sure, the government's not going to ask for the receipt on that stimulus check and, hey, we don't want you to pay back that 12,000 or whatever, how much you got in like a year or something. We're going to have to pay it back either in higher taxes, or we're going to have to pay it back in the fact that our economy is going to tank and that we're all going to suffer the consequences. We will pay one way or another. It's just not the way people think. We might not have to literally give the government money back, but we will suffer the consequences and we will have to pay for it through the actions of what's happened. Like, yeah, it sounds like I'm just, issuing all this doom and gloom right now, but people, like, not enough people are talking about this, all right? And that's just the long-term, things about it. Like, the more short-term concerns is this whole social distancing culture that's popped up. They shouldn't be calling it social distancing. It should be called physical distancing, because physically you want to be distant. But being socially distant means not talking to people, not saying hi to people. I'm noticing that. I'm walking around, people just ignoring me. They're taking social distancing literally. Like, don't be nice to people. Don't say hi. Don't even look at them. I was running on a trail this morning, on a trail I usually run on, and for the most part in the area I live in, it seems like people aren't too panicky, and I'm seeing people walk around without face masks and they're saying hi to me and smiling and walking by. But today, I saw this old guy on a bike, right? Totally covered from head to toe. He's got gloves, got a jacket, sweats, he's got a hood on, sunglasses. And his face mask was off as he was coming toward me on the trail on the bike, and I was running the opposite direction, like toward him. He looked up and saw me, immediately grabbed his mask, put it up over his face, and as I ran past him, I looked back, he dropped the mask. It's like, really? Like, you're that fucking scared that just walking by someone like that. Oh, let me put my mask on real quick. Oh, okay, I'm safe. All right, put it back down. Just the level of fear it would take to call someone to act like that. It's like, it's illogical. Why the fuck you outside anyways? If you felt like that you couldn't be, like, I wasn't even within 6 feet of him. I was on the opposite side of the trail, totally outside of his little 6 foot bubble. All right. And he still felt compelled to do that because he was that scared and convinced that he can't be around people. That's what social distancing is doing to people right now, is they are literally not being sympathetic to people around them. They are looking at other people, not as other human beings, but as a potential health risk. Oh, there's a health risk walking right by me. Right by me. Let me put a face mask on so I didn't get infected by that health. Look at this fucking asshole. He has no mask on. He's just running around. Fucking health risk. Get out of my sight. He didn't say that, but I'm sure he's thinking it. Like, this social distancing is literally making people less like people. No one, like, when this first shelter in order place hit, I knew someone that was, their birthday was around the corner, right? And it was someone from work, and they invited like everybody, all right? And normally, this is one of those people that they're popular enough that like everybody would have showed up. Under normal circumstances, there would have been like 30, 40 people at this little barbecue they were throwing. This was the Saturday after the shelter in place orders were put. Literally, no one showed up. Even though all of us were healthy and this is all still kind of fresh, everybody was scared enough. They're like, I don't even want to risk being at your party, even though you show no symptoms. There's no one in your house that you're hosting this at that shows symptoms. I'm fine. Doesn't matter. I don't want to risk it. That's the toll this social distancing is doing. And I know a lot of people are trying their best, trying to compensate it. People are doing Zoom meetings, and people are trying to FaceTime more, and they're trying to get around the distance thing, and still trying to be social, which, I can respect. You're trying to work around it. But that's just the short-term thing, is that now we're less, you know, we're less seeing eye to eye. We're not looking at each other as human beings anymore. We're just looking at each other like at health as health risks. And it's sad because, you know, that just makes people even more illogical and more, you know, I don't know the best way to say it, just more vulnerable to all these fear mongering, because you don't have the support of a social circle that most people would normally have. People are just, they feel alone. I feel, I'm starting to feel more alone, not because I'm like physically ignoring people, but because this whole social distancing thing is people might talk to me, but they don't want to come near, they don't want to risk it. They like, even within 6 feet, people are not even like, I'm getting less people look at me. They see me without a mask and they automatically walk the other way. People like cross the other side of the street when we're both walking on the sidewalk. Like, it's just, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because of just how we're acting toward each other. Like, we're not even people anymore. Just a bunch of sheep. Yeah, just a bunch of sheep. Now, I've spoken about, why the social distancing, effects of it, the economy, how the economies, it was already kind of on a downward slope, and all this lockdown nonsense, all it's doing is oiling the way all the way down, so we'll get there to the bottom quicker. It's another thing this whole thing has done is it's just creating more division. Like I said at the very beginning, is that I'm just having more and more people just not want to hear what I have to say. It's causing division within society. It's just another thing for people to argue about. Normally, this time of year, what we're arguing about? We're arguing about sports. We're arguing about the election. We're arguing about all the normal stuff we're arguing about. Now it's, oh man, you shouldn't be outside. It's unsafe, and you're being an asshole to everybody around you by going outside. Now the conversation has shifted to something that people don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. All right. Now, I did some numbers. All right. And I told you I was going to try to do a little bit more numbers and info to kind of drive some of my points home. So okay, I got the idea from someone else on Instagram. This person who I don't want to throw this person under the bus, because I was reading the comments this person had to this post, and they were pretty negative, only because a lot of people didn't like what this person had to say. But I followed suit and did the same thing, and I came to the same conclusion. So here's a few numbers for you. The 10 largest cities in the world, excluding anything in America, the 10 largest cities in the world, excluding New York, have a population of about 231 million people. All right, that's simple math. You can go online, look up 10 largest cities. All right, get the populations, add them all up. It's approximately 231 million people. Now, New York City, which is one of the hardest hit areas in the country as far as COVID cases go, it's a big city, but they're only at 8.3 million people, which is like, I don't know, it's like 2% or something, or like 4% of that other, the rest of those cities. It's minuscule. New York City by itself is minuscule compared to all those cities combined. All right. Now, in those 10 cities, I'll just list them off for you real quick. It's Tokyo, Dhaka, Mumbai, Cairo, Mexico City, Delhi, Beijing, Sao Paulo, Osaka, and Shanghai. Now, between all of those cities, I got this info a few days ago. So as of April 25th, which is only a few days ago, they had only 930 COVID deaths confirmed. All right. Let me repeat that. In a population pool of 231 million people, which is about 2/3 of America. So a population size about 2/3 of America only has 930 deaths. When you do the math, that is a death rate of 0.0004%. Meaning that if you live in any of those cities, you have a 0.0004 chance of dying from this virus. That is minuscule. All right. Now let's just go to New York City real quick. All right. Which paints a very different picture. And this should concern you people if you really think about it. In New York City, which has 8.3 million people, and I should say has some of the strictest shelter-in-place orders, and also is home to some of the best doctors on the planet. Let me repeat that. New York City has some of the strictest shelter-in-place orders and some of the best doctors on the planet. You want to know how many cases they got? They got over 12,000. Over 12,000 deaths in New York City alone. How is that possible? How is it a population that's only, minuscule compared to the 10 largest cities have literally thousands and thousands of more deaths? It doesn't make any sense. And even now, if you go online and read it, they're saying that, there's probably more cases because, we're not testing enough. So that 12,000 is probably higher. It's probably more than that. All right. I've pointed this out to people. And their first response was, well, a lot of those countries aren't counting all their deaths. All right. They're not counting all their cases. So all those countries, they're just being assholes and hiding how bad it really is. Oh, okay. So that's your explanation, is that the entire world is hiding it and only America is being truthful and only America has enough tests in order to get an accurate number. Okay. All right. Let me humor you for a second. All right. Let's say that's true. Let's say America is the only country that is doing this correctly, the only country that has enough tests to do it. Now let's look at that number again. 8.3 million people in New York City, over 12,000 deaths. Now, if you do the math, the likelihood of you living in New York City, catching and dying from this virus, you have a 0.14% chance of dying from it. Let me say that again. Even if that number is accurate, and even if that, let's just say, let's double it. Let's double the number. Let's say they're only getting half the amount of cases that there really are, and really there's twice as many deaths as what they're reporting in New York City alone, which is by far the worst area hit in the country. Now, if you double the number, it's still less than 1%. It is still less than 1%. It's not even half a fucking percent of the people living there are in danger. All right, 12,000, you see that number? That looks like a lot of people. Bam. But compare that to 8.3 million. Put those two numbers right next to each other. It's hard for people to comprehend how much more people a million is than 1,000, because you only see a few more zeros. You're like, it's only a little bit less. That looks like it's half the amount of people. You see 5 digits and a million only has 7 digits. You think it's close. It's not even close. It's less than 1 fucking percent. In New York City, the worst hit area in the country, less than 1% of the people there are dying. Okay. Now, this is the other argument I've been hearing. And this is the main argument for the lockdown, was that all the hospitals are going to be overrun. Okay. If you go on Google right now, do it right now, right after this video, or as you're listening, type in hospitals being overrun. Back in March, you get a few stories of them predicting that hospital is going to be overrun, but I doubt you will find a story or a long list of hospitals that have been overrun by this virus. New York and New Jersey are the exceptions because they're, like I said, they're the worst hit areas in the countries, and some of those hospitals are definitely pushing the limit. And in those cases, all right, maybe New York has a justification for being on lockdown. Their hospitals are being pushed to the limit. However, if you go across the country here in California, Texas, the Midwest, you look at all their hospitals, none of them are being overrun. Name one fucking hospital. I want the name. I want the amount of beds they were short and the amount of ventilators they were short. Someone look it up and tell me, put it on there, how many hospitals have been overrun. You'd be hard pressed to find any. And the whole point of the whole state of California, because I'm from California, so I'm gonna keep using it as an example, but this easily applies to anywhere you're at where they're doing these orders. Whole point was to stem all these hospitals being overrun. But when you go to these hospitals, they're fucking empty. They're turning away people with other issues and only accepting people that have COVID-19 symptoms. And even then, they're not even accepting all the ones that potentially have symptoms. They're only accepting a minuscule amount. I don't know if the thinking is, all right, we only want really bad people so we don't overrun the hospitals. But it's like that. It's not happening anywhere. It hasn't happened. And even though it's like they're still thinking that this number is going to fucking explode as soon as we like let everybody out, there's still not enough evidence to justify this lockdown. There has not been enough harm to the population from this virus to justify all the economic fucking trauma we're going to experience here in the next few months. It doesn't justify it. It doesn't justify having millions of people that bought their own business and own and operate their own restaurant, their own, nursing, pregnant, whatever business they own that they can no longer, make money from because of all this. You're destroying livelihoods, people, which is in my book, threatening the safety of people. Because when you have so many people out of work, you know what happens is people get complacent and people just start giving up. They start giving up, and you know what? Suicides have been higher since this whole thing has happened. Divorce rates have skyrocketed, all right? And people are always chopping it up as all of these things are not above the safety of people, all right? But as I just pointed out right now, the safety of people is not as bad as they're making it seem. In New York, where it's at its worst, even if you double the numbers they already confirmed, it's still less than 1% of the population being affected. So why, for the love of God, are they still enforcing all of these measures? It is no longer justified. It is no longer justified, and it is straight up fascist, which is exactly what Elon Musk said the other day during the Tesla earning call. He was asked about, the measures and how he felt. And, I'm just going to go on a branch and I'm just going to defend him real quick. All right. And I'm just going to point out why I agree with him. People are like, oh, Elon Musk is a billionaire. They just hear the word billionaire and they automatically assume that he's selfish and that he's saying that because Tesla isn't making cars right now and he just wants to make money. But if you've been doing your research and paying attention, Tesla's stock has actually gone up since all the furloughs that they've been implementing started. Stock went up. Now, anyone that follows the economy knows that is fishy as fuck. How can a company's stock price go higher when they're furloughing people, when they're not making the product that the company is supposed to be making? They're not making cars in America right now, all right, because of all this, but yet the stock price went up. That's how you know there's a fucking fix-in. That's how you know that the stock market no longer represents the real economy. And that's what all of that, I'll take this full circle, all that stuff going on with Wall Street, like March on Wall Street and all that. This is a prime example. The people that own stock, they're fine. All the Tesla workers that got furloughed, they're fucked. All right. And yeah, sure, it's a publicly traded company. So anyone that owns Tesla stock made it. People that think that Elon's being greedy and that he just wants people to go back to work because he's losing money, you guys are not looking at the big picture. The fact that the stock went up, Elon Musk is the biggest shareholder of Tesla, which means every dollar that stock goes up, Elon Musk is making more money. He's been making more money since the furlough started than before the furlough started. And he even said himself that he thinks the stock price is too high. You know why? Because he's smart enough to realize that the stock price is not reflecting where the company is actually at. It's reflecting all the financial, trickery and stuff that all these stock investors and Wall Street guys are doing to the company. They don't care that we're furloughed, that anybody's furloughed, They don't care that people are not making cars at this company. They don't care. They know that they can get the price to go up and then they'll sell to make money. That's what a short seller is, right? They could give a fuck about how the company actually performs and what that company actually does. The stock market is used to just make more money for people that have money. And Elon is wise to it and he gets it. And that's why he makes comments like that when he says the stock price is too high. He knows what's going on. He knows that people are messing with the price so they can get a personal gain. All right. If he gave a fuck about money, he would have kept his mouth shut because the price would have stayed up. Okay, like I'm gonna have to end this pretty soon because apparently I'm at my time limit. I guess I can only do up to an hour of a podcast, but let me just wrap this up. Like, yeah, like there's more and more people speaking out. For people that think that people like Elon are selfish assholes, this guy was a billionaire before SpaceX and Tesla. He was a billionaire when he was a lot younger. And if he was just a rich asshole, he wouldn't have taken all his money and put it in companies that literally go against the grain. He could put his money in stock and have it make money for him and become a fucking almost a trillionaire if he wanted to. But no, he put his own money on the line to create a company that he felt had a greater purpose than just money alone. SpaceX, Tesla, all his companies, if you really look at it, have an end goal, and it's to progress humanity. And, you know, when I talk about this, I know people are like, okay, he's not a god. Like, I understand that. But I would say I respect Elon Musk a hell of a lot more than any of our government officials. He has a lot more on the line to lose than anyone by speaking up, and he still chose to. Okay, so keep that in mind. Don't just go off your gut reaction that there's all these rich people speaking up or just to save their own money. No, he even mentioned it himself that Tesla will survive. It will survive this storm, but a lot of small businesses won't, which is what I was saying earlier. So yeah, I'm just gonna end it here. I mean, I know I was kind of repeating myself a lot. It's just there's so much going on, people, and I'm gonna try my best to stay updated. I read up on this every day for hours. I am literally following it minute by minute, and you know, I'm standing true to what I believe in, and I just honestly feel this lockdown. This lockdown has a purpose greater than any of us is seeing, and it might not be what we think it is. So I'll leave it at that. I gave you enough food for thought to the next episode. Don't know when I'm doing another one, but it will definitely be soon. So hope you have a good one. I don't like bumming people out every time I leave an episode, but look, like we gotta speak up, people. Gotta speak up. If you don't agree with me, fine. If everything I said don't make sense to you, then fine. Go about your day. Thank you for taking the time to listen to what I had to say. I appreciate it. I really do. Okay. In a time where everybody just wants to shut their ears and only let their mouths do all the noise making, you know, it's really a blessing to have anyone stop and consider what you got to say. But for all of you that agree with me, all of you that believe I've made a point, that believe that, yeah, this is bullshit, I'm going to ask something of you. I'm going to ask something of you. Speak up. Speak up. Even if it's just the people around you, even if it's just, you know, you got your own podcast, YouTube, your own way of getting this information out. If you have your own way of doing it, do it. All right. There's a lot of people too scared to say anything because they're afraid of losing sponsorships, advertisements. I'm in a weird position where I don't have too much to lose. I've already lost technically my job. And this whole YouTube podcasting stuff I'm trying is in its infancy. And I could very well get my shit kicked off YouTube and Spotify and all that for just talking about this stuff. But I'm not making money from it like a lot of people. So I have less to lose. If you're in that boat, I encourage you to speak up, have your voice heard, not argue with people and try to change their mind, but point all this stuff out I'm saying. It will get people thinking, and people will be less likely to just go with the herd. All right? I'm out of time. I gotta go. Love y'all. Y'all have a good day.